Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Foundations webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be doing the presentation with you today. Just like all of our previous webinars, everybody will be on mute, but if you do happen to have any questions at any point during our class, please feel free to go ahead and type those into the questions and answer section. And at the end of the class, I will go through and answer any questions that may have come up. Also, at the end of the class, I will be sending out an email that's going to contain a document that's going to cover everything that we're going to be going over in today's class. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, again, please don't hesitate. You can, again, reach out to our support department by either phone or email, and they will be happy to answer any of your questions. Again, today's class is on foundations. In today's class, we're going to be going over some detailed information about drawing and editing foundations in Envisioneer. We're going to be basically going through how to use the Foundation Builder Wizard. We're then going to be looking at how to step your foundations, and we're also going to be looking at how to insert pad footings into your design. So first, let's talk about the Foundation Builder Wizard. Now, the Foundation Builder Wizard builds a foundation for you automatically by tracing the perimeter walls of the location above it. All you have to do is select the components you want your foundation to have and the materials you want to use for your walls, footings, and floors. Just a quick note here, for the Foundation Wizard to work, there must be a ground floor wall already present in the drawing, so it has something to trace around. As you can see in my design, I have a basic design here that shows our ground floor, pardon me, and we're going to use the floor and foundation builder to build a foundation underneath this design. So to do that, and I'm just going to try and get rid of the zoom panel at the top here, so just give me 1 second to get rid of that. There we go. So to do the next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert our foundation underneath our ground floor level here. Now to do that, we can do this in a couple of ways. If you like to use the menu option, you can go up and you can select under Insert, Design Wizards, and you can select the Floor and Foundation Builder Wizard option. If you like to use the buttons, underneath the Building tab, you will see this little button here and a drop down beside it. Select the drop down, and then you can select Floor and Foundation Builder. Both options will launch the Floor and Foundation Builder Wizard dialog box. And all we have to do here is select Next. Now we need to choose our level type. So what type of location are we creating? Not only are we able to create a foundation level using this tool, we can also create a floor above our location as well. So if our second floor is going to be the exact same perimeter layout of our ground floor, but we want to use different walls, then we can use the Floor and Foundation Builder Wizard to again create a second story on our design as well. We're going to focus on the basement, so we're going to select the foundation option. And then we're going to make sure that we are on the correct location. So here we can see we're creating a foundation level, which will give us foundation tools to choose from. But we also want to make sure it's on the correct location, and that's going to be on the foundation. We're then going to select Next. When you select Next, you're going to notice that it's asking you to select the foundation style as well as the building elements you're going to be using. And you'll also notice that the next button is grayed out. You cannot proceed any further until you've made these choices. Now, the choices you have to make are again going to be the type of foundation you want to use. So are you doing a stem wall with a footing? Are you doing a full basement with a slab, a wall, and a footing? Or are you doing a slab on grade, which will have a footing and a floor, or a monolithic footing? So you can choose whichever option you want from here. We're going to use the full basement option, and I'm going to select basement. And you'll notice that all three options are highlighted for me. If I was to choose one of the other options, the areas that are not relevant become grayed out because you don't need to select anything. So if I selected the wall and footing, floors become disabled. If I select the slab on grade option, walls become disabled. So I don't need to select anything there. You'll also notice that you can choose the I already have a floor slab, do not include another option here. So if you've already inserted a floor, you can insert just the footing if you wanted to. We're going to insert our basements, and we're going to make sure that we specify exactly what we want for this foundation layout. In this case, I want to use 10-inch poured concrete walls. So I'm going to select the walls option. And underneath my concrete option, I'm going to select my poured concrete folder. And in there, I'm going to select my 10-inch poured concrete wall system. And I'm going to say, OK. Now I choose my floor. I'm going to select floors. I'm going to select the floor option. I don't want it to be a structural floor. I'm not adding in a frame floor in here. I'm adding in an actual floor. So I'm going to use the floor tool. I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to choose the floor slab that I want to use. And that can be 4, 6, 8, or 10-inch, whichever slab thickness you want for your basement. I'm going to use a 4-inch concrete slab. I'm going to say OK. Next, I'm going to select my footings. And again, you'll notice I'm still not able to select next because I have not specified my footing yet. I'm going to select footings. And now I'm going to select the footing size that I want to use. Typically, the footing should be double the thickness of your wall. So I'm going to use the 1 foot thick by 1 foot 8 wide solid strip footing. I'm then going to select OK. Now that I've selected all of the different components that make up that foundation wall or that foundation plan, I can now select Next. Once I select Next, it's now going to ask me to adjust the position of the elements themselves. Now in here, what we can do is we can adjust the element based off of the wall, off the floor, or off the footing. I'm going to use the wall option here. Then we have a distance, and we can offset it towards the inside or the outside. This is essentially asking us, where in relation does this foundation wall sit to the edge of your veneer itself? And as you can see here, it's sitting flush with the edge of that wall. If I want there to be a gap, then I'm going to add in a distance. And I'm just going to drop in a distance of 1 inch in here. And I'm going to move my foundation towards the inside. And what that does is it now creates a lip on the edge of that foundation wall. Pardon me. So now I have an overhang of my veneer over top of my foundation. I'm going to select Next. This is just a completing the floor and foundation builder wizard option. If you select Finish here, you're ending the command and the foundation will be inserted. This is your last chance to go back and make any adjustments to any of the settings that are going to make up that foundation plan for you. So we're going to select Finish, and it may not look like anything has happened, but what we've actually done is if we switch to the foundation level, we have now added in our foundation plan. And we can now see our walls, our footings, and inside of here is also going to be your floors. If we go into a 3D view, again, we're not going to see much here because our terrain is still on, but if I drop down, we're going to see our foundation sitting underneath. And if I turn this into a rendered outline view, and we kind of move our mouse in, we can see that the foundation is sitting 1 inch in, and we're getting an overhang of our brick over top of our foundation wall. If I just move inside, we can see our floor has been added in. So all of this information has been added in by just selecting those tools and specifying the options at which we want them to be inserted. What we're going to do now is we're going to be looking at modifying our foundation walls. So once the foundation system has been created, you can edit it just like any other wall system. Each wall can be replaced with a different type, shortened in height, or elevated to a new height. So let's go back into 2D, and let's select this wall right here. With that wall selected, I want to now go in and I want to right click and I'm going to select Properties. This is going to bring up the properties of our wall. And in here, we can see under our basic tab, we can control the type of wall that's going to be used. We can also adjust the actual components that make up that wall. So if I select the select button, again, we can see that this is using a 10-inch poured concrete as the core, and I can see here how it's being set up. Again, it's using an actual component that's going to refer to our foundation components. And again, in that foundation component is what's going to be used to make up that wall. So we're going to see all of our assemblies that make up that wall, as well as the thickness of the wall itself. Pardon me. I'm just going to click cancel on there because I don't want to make any changes to the wall itself in regards to how it's being constructed. But what I do want to take a look at are some of the other variables that we can adjust. So underneath the top edge section, by default, walls will take on the wall height assigned to them based off of the building locations that the wall was added in on. If you want to edit the wall height to make it something different, you can specify, again, making sure it's set to level, user defined, and then under wall height, you can type in whatever distance you want in that dialog. And this will increase or decrease the height of the wall that is selected and only the wall that is selected. Just remember, if you shorten a wall, you have to make sure that the height of a wall is, remember that the height of the wall is determined from the bottom of the wall up. So if you take height away, you must elevate that wall up that same distance so that the floor sits on the foundation itself. What we mean by that is, again, so if I drop this wall height to be 8 foot 4 inches, and I got rid of the 4 inches, I would need to elevate the wall up 4 inches because it's measured from bottom of wall to top of wall. And if I take away 4 inches, I'm essentially just taking it away from the top. So I need to elevate it up to bring that 4 inches back into play so that the floor structure sits on top of the foundation wall itself. If you want to create a stepped foundation, under the bottom edge section, you can select the step option. You can then specify the start point and stop point. The option C that we see here, so if we change this to be step, the option C will allow you to specify the option D will allow you to specify the maximum step distance. So we can adjust, again, how we want this wall to be stepped out. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go in and we're going to make some adjustments to our wall. Now, our start height is going to be based off of our green mark on our wall. So that's the start point. That is going to be the end point. I want to leave my start height at 0, but I want the end height to be something different. So let's go in and we're going to add in 4 feet here. And then we're going to go in and our max distance we're going to say is going to be 2 feet. So what we are essentially doing here is we're taking that wall. And if I bring this camera around here to this side, and I pull the camera down, we are taking that wall and we're leaving that first point at 0, but we're dropping it down 4 feet. I'm then telling it that the maximum height that I want each step to be, and again, I'm just going to bring this up so we can see it, is 2 feet. So again, starting at 0, going down 4 feet, maximum height or maximum step distance is 2 feet. If I set that to be 1 foot, and I say, okay, we're going to get additional steps. So you can define exactly how many steps you want to take advantage of when you're creating these by just adjusting the maximum height that you want each step to be. And again, we're just going to go back in and say 2 feet. Now you'll also notice that the footing did not take into consideration any of the adjustments that we made there. So what I would do here is I would select this footing and I would delete it out. Once that footing has been deleted out, I would go back into 2D. I would then select my footings attached to walls. I would reselect the footing, and then I would just click on the wall itself, and I would add it back in. I'm going to need to fine tune how this footing is being added in. So I'm just going to go back into that view, and I can stretch the footings around to help clean up where they're going to be positioned. So if I want to take this footing, I can essentially just grab the edges and move them into place so that they show up in the correct spots. This footing is probably going to sit more towards the edge of the wall, and this one's going to go to here. So again, you can fine tune and adjust the footings as needed by just simply selecting them and moving them to where they need to be positioned. Now across the front here, or the back of our design here, we have a couple of options here. So we can essentially leave this as it is and say that this wall just needs to drop down further. Or we can say, well, we also want to slope this wall, or we want to adjust this wall. So let's take this wall and let's just slope this one. So we go into the properties of this wall. If we take a look, we're now seeing that the start point is down here, and this point over here is our end point. So again, we see that our bottom edge, if we do slope, we can see that our start point, which is always our green dot, is now going to be our 4-foot mark. So I'm going to say 4 feet. And then our end height is going to stay at 0. When I say OK, it's now going to slope that wall. So we're no longer getting the step option. We're now just getting the slope. All of this, we need to add in the extra 4 feet to get this wall to sit at the correct height. So I'm going to go back into the properties of just this wall, and I'm going to change the wall height to be 12 foot 4 inches. I'm adding in the 4 feet, and I'm going to say OK. And as you can see, it's elevating that wall all the way up here. So all that extra height is now added to the top of the wall. We want to lower that. So I'm going to select the footing and the wall, right click, elevate, and we're just going to go in and say minus 4 feet 4 inches. Apply, and then OK. So now we have our foundation wall that steps on one side. We've raised the height and lowered it down on one side. And then on this side, we've just added in a slope. Again, we're going to need to add in a footing that's attached to that wall. And on this particular case, we're unable to attach footings on a sloped wall. So this wall will not have a footing attached to it. So now we go back into our 2D plan view. We can again fine tune the placement of wherever our footings are going to sit. And we can go in, and we're now going to take a look at adding in our pad footings. So if you've added a column to your foundation, you can easily insert a pad footing underneath it. We're going to select the Insert Footings, Mono Footings Attached to Columns option. And on our ground floor, we're going to see that we have a column here. So we're going to go back up. We're again going to go underneath our Footings folder. Sorry, our Footings button. And then we're going to select the Mono Footings Attached to Columns. If you like to use the menu, you're going to select Insert. You're going to select Footings. And then you're going to select the mono footings attached to columns. In the catalog on the right-hand side, it will populate with all the different footings that we can use for our column. And as you can see here, we have a cylindrical mono footing, we have rectangular mono footings, and we have tapered rectangular mono footings. Each of them has a different shape and different sizes associated to them. If you have a footing that is not listed in here that you need to use, you can very easily add a footing in to the actual catalog. So let's go in and add a footing into our catalog, and we're going to do that underneath our rectangular mono footings. So underneath our rectangular mono footings, let's go in and select a size that's going to be close to what we want. So let's say I want to add in a 2 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot rectangular mono footing. So I'm going to select one that is close as it can get. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say add elements. Once I select the add element, it's going to pop up with the mono footings option. And we can see here that we are adding this to the catalog. This is a permanent change to the catalog, and it will forever always be a part of my catalog going forward. Now I just need to adjust the parameters that make up that footing. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that this is set to a 2 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot 0 inch rectangular mono footing. That's just the name of the footing. Now I need to specify the height, and I want that to be 1 foot. So I now have a 2 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot rectangular mono footing, and I can say okay. It's now attached to my catalog. And inside of that, we may also want to make sure we adjust. If you want to adjust the appearance or the line work, you can make those adjustments. Under quantity, we do want to make sure that we adjust the footings to show up exactly the way that we want as well. So here we can see it's a 2020 10. So we'll leave that as it is, but you can change the part number to be anything that you want there. And then again, how it's going to be quantified by the cubic feet. So we're going to leave everything as it is. We're going to say okay. And now all I have to do is bring that footing in, find the column, and select the column. As soon as I select the column, it adds that footing in underneath that column itself. And we can now see that that footing is now placed underneath the column that we have added in. Just a quick note here, the mono footings attached to columns tool will not work if you do not select a column in your drawing. If you do not have a column or you want to insert a pad footing under a different type of structure, you can use the mono footings by picking points tool instead of the mono footing attached to columns. So here you can do mono footings by picking points. And then you can place a mono footing wherever you want. So if we go mono footings by picking points, you can choose and place this footing wherever you want. So we can just place mono footings anywhere in our design, and they will show up in our quantity reports and in our plan views. So that covers everything I wanted to discuss with you today in regards to our foundation plans. So I'm going to go over a quick review of what we've covered. If you happen to have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and type those in, and I will go ahead and answer those for you. So just to review, the Foundation Builder Wizard takes all of the work out of creating a foundation. Various construction styles are available, and once the foundation is created, you can customize the individual walls and add elements such as columns and pad footings. The Foundation Builder builds a foundation by tracing the perimeter walls of an existing location above it. The wizard can create different foundation types, be it wall footing, basement, slab on grade, or monolithic. While using the wizard, you can select the materials that you would like to use for the foundation's components. You can edit the height of individual walls and step or slope their tops or bottoms as well. Use the columns tool to add posts to your foundation, and then the mono footings attached to columns tool to automatically insert pad footings beneath them. So I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm just going to pause here for just a moment to see if anybody is finishing up with any questions. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I'm also going to be sending out an email that's going to contain a document that covers everything that we discussed in today's class. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, again, please don't hesitate. You can contact our support department and they will be happy to answer any of your questions. One question just came in. Have you showed how to add in a monolithic slab with stem walls? You can add in a monolithic stem wall with walls. You can do that by just simply choosing the type of foundation you want. So if you're going to be doing something like that, you're going to go File, New. You're going to select your slab on grade option, and you're going to basically set up your building locations to define how high you want your stem walls to be. So in this case, underneath here, we can see that the foundation is set to be -3'8". I'm not sure what the actual height of the stem walls are that you want to take advantage of, so I'm going to leave mine at that value. And basically, we're going to see a wall that's going to be inserted at 4 feet. So right now our ground floor is sitting 4 inches above our terrain. And then we have a 4-foot wall that's going to be inserted in there. So if I say okay to all of that, and let's just go to our foundation. In this case, I wouldn't use the floor and foundation wizard. I could still draw my foundation or my ground floor walls first and add in my stem walls if I wanted to afterwards. But I'm just going to draw the stem walls in. And we're going to go into walls. We're going to select our concrete walls, and these can be concrete block. These can be whatever you want them to be. I'm just going to use an 8-inch concrete block, and I'm just going to do a 20-foot by 20-foot square. So I've now added in my stem walls. So on my 3D view, when I take a look at it, I'm going to see my stem walls. And there they are. No floor has been added in yet. We're not seeing an actual floor here. We're just seeing the actual stem walls. I can now add the floor in so that it sits either inside of this space, or I can have them sit on top of the walls themselves. So it all depends again on how you want this to be displayed. So I can again go back into my 2D plan view and I can adjust the location. So if I want the floor to be added in on the if I want the floor to be added in on the ground floor, then I would add it here. And then I would just go in and select my floor by picking points, select the thickness. I'm just going to do a 4-inch slab, and I'm just going to pick the points around my foundation. So now what I'm seeing is that 4-inch slab is now sitting, and I just need to elevate this guy up, and we're going to go up 4 inches. So now we're seeing that slab sitting on top of the actual stem wall. If I want this to sit true at the height, then I would make this -4 feet. That's going to bring the wall down for us. And we're going to leave that at 4 inches. So I'm going to say 4 inches. We'll say okay. And then I'm just going to make that elevate back down to 0. And that will bring our slab back in so that it sits right at the top of our stem wall. So that's how you can do a stem wall with a floor. If you wanted to do like a monolithic footing, then you could use your floor and foundation builder wizard. We need to have a location on here, so we're going to draw in some walls here real quick. Let's just do 2x6 cement board siding walls. And then we'll do, ground floor. And then floor and foundation builder wizard next. We can now go in and say under our under our foundations, we want to make sure that we are just adding in a monolithic slab. And then that's going to have a floor thickness that's going to be 4 inches. And our footing is going to be, you can do tapered, you can do billeted, you can do whatever footing you want for that design. And I'm just going to grab in a footing here. We'll do this one here, and we'll say okay. And then I can say next. I can now see how that is going to be inserted. And I can go in and I can say next and finish. And what we're going to see there is that footing now sitting underneath our slab. And what I'll need to do here is, since I inserted it at the 0 mark here, this one I would probably want to be at 0. And then this one we'll just leave at 4. So it's something like that. And actually, we probably want that to sit -4 because we want the slab to sit down. And then we want 4. And there our floors, our walls are now going to sit on top of our actual floors. Now this particular wall has a drop exterior face assigned to it, so it's going to show down inside the foundation there. So we may want to adjust how that wall is being adjusted. But if you select all similar and go into its properties, we can go into the components and we can say that should be 0. Same with our OSB sheathing, that should also be 0. And say okay. And then we can set this back up to be 0. And then we want our foundation to also be at 0 here. And that should be 0. And that will bring our slab up and our footing underneath. Now the footings get inserted. I don't know if there's a way to switch that on insertion, so I will probably have to just rotate it here. And let's see if that rotates it around. And then you can see there that the footing now gets rotated so that and then we're just going to rotate all of these guys around. And then rotate. So again, we should see, that didn't get rotated. Rotate. Why are you not rotating? There we go. So you can rotate the footings around after they've been inserted as well to create the shape of the footing that you're trying to replicate. Let me know if that answers your question. I believe that's what you were looking for, but I just want to double check and make sure. Perfect. All right, well, there doesn't appear to be any other questions. So again, I do want to thank everybody for attending today. Like I mentioned, I will be sending out that email very soon, so you will have the document to work off of as well. Again, if you have any questions while going over that document, again, please don't hesitate. Reach out to our support department, and they'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So thank you very much, everybody, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Bye, everyone.